cold reality fails. So I wanted readers with strong idiosyncratic tastes, people who read literature imaginatively rather than as a social document. They had to be people without an axe to grind or a set of friends to promote, people with an ability to articulate why a book or a writer was good without reaching for the props of reputation or acclaim, or gender and ethnic balance to support their assessments. In short, I wanted a band of outsider minds that worked inside the system of publishing. In April of last year, they began to come together. I knew from the beginning that Sigrid Rousing, the publisher of this magazine, and Ella Offrey, its deputy, needed to be on board. The library they have read between them is vast, and the record of spotting something good in a large pile is extraordinary. Gabby Wood, the literary editor of The Telegraph, joined us last spring, bringing to the committee a decade and a half at the coalface of literature and reporting desks on both sides of the Atlantic. A.L. Kennedy, who has twice been selected as a Granta Best Young British Novelist, in 1993 and 2003, signed on early and brought a hilarious seriousness to the proceedings. The novelist Romesh Gunasekara joined us early too with his elegant and thoughtful mind. And finally, in late summer we had Stuart Kelly, literary critic for The Scotsman, who seems to have read every book that was ever published, as well as some that weren't. And then the books started coming. Over 150 authors applied for this distinction. To be considered, they had to be 40 or under at the time of our publication, hold a British passport, and have published or have a contract to publish at least one work of fiction. Our sifting system was simple. Between the two of us, Elle and I would read everything. I would read all or around in the backlist titles of the authors, and Ella would focus on reading all the pieces that the writers submitted with their entries. This latter task was important and a new addition to the process. We wanted this issue to be not just a list of names, but a representative selection of their best fiction, and previous experience taught that writers needed lead time to produce something strong. So all the writers were told they had to submit a new story or a part of a new novel by the middle of October 2012. Granta staff, Patrick Ryan, Ted Hodgkinson, Yuka Igarashi, Michael Salu, Saskia Vogel, David Robinson, Kate Rochester, and Daniela Silva also read and filed insightful and informative reports on the writers as they came in. We met for the first time at a bistro in Soho in May, after the Independent Foreign Fiction Prize, to discuss books together well before the debates kicked off. We began sending writers to the judges in July when the submission trickle turned into a slow-moving creek. As it quickened and deepened, we forwarded the judges 3 or 4, sometimes 5 writers a week. The eerie silence into which they disappeared was hard to interpret at first. It was either the sound of people reading or the politeness of a group unimpressed. As it turns out, it was a bit of both. A.L. Kennedy sent along her enthusiasm for Jenny Fagan, Ross Raisin, and Joanna Kavanagh, but bemoaned the feel of lots of wine bar show-offs and shake-and-bake first novels. Gabby Wood was more upbeat, but wondered if novelists at age 41 or 42 had been cut off on the wrong side of an arbitrary line. Stuart Kelly echoed this point over the telephone as we professed our mutual frustrations that Rana Dasgupta and China Miéville and Tom McCarthy would be too old this time around. I also lamented Mohsen Hamed's 1971 birth date. We met 2 more times in 2012, first in mid-October at Granta's company flat in Holland Park, stoked by Lebanese takeaway and a feeling that we had to do better. Out of this meeting developed a discussion about what we were looking for in young novelists. Romesh asked for an engagement with language, a feeling for the form, writing that absorbs the reader, and something distinctive, to which Ella added control and energy, as well as the sense that this is a writer whose overall project has a future. For Stuart, the highest consideration was, does this expand what it is possible for the novel to do? He also admitted, I think we should remember that we are reading in somewhat unideal conditions, since no reader outside the critical community would ever undertake such a task, and that memory is perhaps the best guide. I'm sure my opinions about some books will change, since they may have managed to create that snag in the brain that even a superabundance of other novels, layered over, will not dim. Stuart's prediction came true. By late November, when we met at the hospital club over tea in a room that looked like it belonged in an Amsterdam canal front window, enthusiasms had developed and corresponding antipathies, too. We spent the first half of the meeting talking about the writers each of us wanted on the list, and the second half annotating the cold list that the judges had been sent, some 65 or so writers in all.